Today we're focusing on what separates the best players from average to beginner players. We'll be focusing on several different elements throughout the video while we focus on Breadman's gameplay, where he racks up over 45 kills in a duo match with Spiros. Now I have links to their channels down in the description if you want to check them out or see this video without my commentary. One of the biggest things that you have to be aware of if you're looking to drop high kill games when it comes to Caldera, the landscape is a little bit different than Verdansk, but some of the fundamentals are still the same. Number one, obviously you got to be a talented player. You got to work on all your different fundamentals, but it really comes down to being consistent in different areas, whether you're focusing on movement. Are you bunny hopping? Are you positioning and slide canceling? Are you utilizing the new stim mechanic where it allows you to have a little bit of a speed boost for that 3-second time? There are several different elements that are going to add to you getting to higher kill games. Once you get the movement kind of mastered, it's mostly simplistic, but are you doing all those fundamentals 100% of the time? Sometimes, like myself, I will admit that I get a little bit lazy. I'm like, I'm not going to do a bunny hop. But then when I want to do a bunny hop, I do an insane bunny hop, and it pays off effectively. And that's really what you got to be worried about, is that consistency factor. Are you doing it 10 out of 10? And the top players typically are. One of the best things about Breadman that separates him from a lot of the top players, at least in my opinion, is his consistency in his fundamentals. On top of that, you have to have good aim. Typically, if you're on controller, it's going to be a little bit easier. You can have tons of off days, and aim assist will help. Him being a keyboard and mouse player, you can actually see his overall keyboard and mouse, and you can kind of see how he positions his hands, how he moves. A little bit harder to be consistent, but if you are, you can pull off some nasty flicks that we'll see later on. But regardless of what platform you play on or what input, all you need to do is be consistent with your individual settings. So fine tune those, and you're going to be ready to rock and roll. If you have those down, you should be able to win your Gulags consistently. 70, 80, 90% would be ideal. Anything 50 is probably average. Less than that, you probably could work on that, and that'll immediately boost your stats and allow you to make it further in games and put you less behind the curve, because if you die in the Gulag, your teammates have to buy you back, or that is the end of your match. Obviously, in this particular case, Spiros dies to Krampus, getting involved with that, and now Breadman has to spend his time focusing on, hey, getting to the buy so I can actually buy Spiros back. Another underrated element is Composure. Some people, when things start going wrong, they start flipping out, raging, for lack of a better phrase, and then they start, you know, their fundamentals are lost, and they stop doing those things 10 out of 10. And that has a lot to do with the consistency part. Then the other part that I think a lot of people lack, and there's different levels to this. It's not just like, oh, you either have it or you don't. There's a progression system that a lot of people don't talk about, and that is your overall tempo. So right here, what you'll see is they move from one player to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and they're really quick about how efficient they are at plating, how quick they can get in and out of a gunfight, how quick they are moving with floor loot and not necessarily waiting for that loadout. They get right into the action here. You can kind of see there's a guy on the hill. He's like, okay, where's this guy? Looks like the guy's kind of backing off. Then he goes and jumps in this heli. You can see him doing a little bit of the shimmying. Kind of snaking is another mechanic, which you didn't touch on, but you can do a little bit of that as well to get a little bit of peek, and then catch your opponent at the right time when they're tack sprinting or whatever the case is. And then on top of that, you also have map knowledge. So there's different elements with map knowledge. Obviously with Caldera, this guy gets destroyed. This guy is a 1 KD player that kills him too, by the way. So sometimes people be like, well, how did this guy get in the lobby? Well, because the skill gap in this game is so low, anybody could kill anyone. Even a 1 KD player killing a 6 KD player without any issues. That's how Warzone is built for the casual player, which is okay. But if you work on getting better, you can leap ahead of the majority of people who play Warzone pretty quickly. There's also another guy, I think his KD was like 0.7. I went through the entire lobby. A third of the lobby that he ended up getting here were above average players or exceptionally above average players. The middle third was just average players, and a third of the people that he killed were below average, which kind of is of an average lobby where I think most players will run into. Obviously, there's sometimes easier lobbies or worse, but we'll get a little bit into that. The other part is once you understand the map, you understand how to rotate, how to position, where the hot places are, especially when you do not have a UAV. Obviously, if you have a UAV, you can see, okay, there's 4 dots over here, there's 2 over here. But without that, you can get a good idea on how you want to rotate because you're like, oh, most people like to be on this side of the map. The flight path was this. The zone rotated from here to there. There are probably going to be people on this edge of the zone. And there's things you pick up intuitively through repetition. And it's just kind of going with your gut instinct, which can develop over time. Obviously, sometimes it doesn't work out. And you're not necessarily going to see that on YouTube or as a highlight. Because even though he gets a 40-something KD in this lobby, that's not his normal KD, it's a 6. So there's plenty of times where he gets 2 kills and a loss, 10 kills and a loss, or whatever, and it doesn't necessarily work out. You can see he ends up beaming all these dudes with the floor loot, has not been able to get a loadout, and the loadout hasn't come in yet, and that's one of the biggest changes with the Battle Royale recently, is it kind of modified that, and you need a fast start. Anywhere between 10 to 20 kills if you're trying to go for an incredibly high kill game, and that's where that tempo comes into play. One of the hardest parts I think a lot of people struggle with is knowing your limits and understanding your weaknesses. I think this is where a lot of people struggle. They think that, you know, hey, you know what? Nobody can be better. I'm at the best I could possibly be, and no one can be better than me. But in reality, you got a free self-res out of that too. That works out pretty good. Comes up, cleans up those guys. But understanding that if you're at a plateau, what do you need to solve for to get better? Is it your movement? Is it your aim? Is it winning your gulags? Is it your composure? Do you crack under pressure? Are you a slow looter? Is your tempo too slow? And then address that. And then also understanding that there's just limitations to how good you can possibly be. Me at 33 years old, I'm already way past my prime. I had over a 3 KD in my 20s. Into my 30s, I'm okay having a 2 KD. I don't care about playing the game 8 to 10 hours a day to fine-tune, min-max, and get to that. That doesn't bother me. I know my deficiencies, and that's something you should really be honest about with yourself, and I think a lot of people struggle with. And right here, he's already sitting on 15 with 77 players left. He comes out, uses the vehicle trick, which a lot of people do use, and now that we've talked about like what it takes to be the talented player, what you need to do to min-max, what we do is talk about the lobby and the execution. And I think sometimes people get it really twisted. You can get into this lobby and guaranteed 90% of people in the comments that are going to probably say, oh, easy lobby. You're in this lobby, you probably get 10 kills and that's it. And that's it. Like, sometimes you got to give credit where it's due. It is insanely difficult to drop 20 kills, 30 kills, and 40 plus kills in a match, regardless of the lobby and regardless of how skillful you are. There's a lot of things that need to line up. One is that at the beginning of the lobby, you should be able to recognize if it is an average or below average lobby really quickly. And normally you can tell from the first couple engagements how people move, how people shoot, and you're like, all right, now I can play a little bit more reckless, but that comes with experience. Obviously, he's using the meta, demolishes that dude, peeks the other one, getting good team shooting with his teammate on a great pace here with 19 kills and still 60 up. And then we also have, once you recognize that, then you got to get good floor loot right off the bat. And that looks like what he's done so far. Was able to get good floor loot, run through the lobby, use what works, and that's pretty important. He could have ended up being in that vehicle and would have died here. Luckily, Spiros took the bait and ended up being that guy for him. This guy probably had Ghost. People are grabbing that off the rip with a launcher, and that is great for vehicles. So you got to be aware of that, because if you're only going to get one loadout, most likely, a lot of people are just going to go Ghost right off the bat and then work with whatever the floor loot, because there are some great floor loot options. This guy was like a 1.8 KD player and didn't matter. He ended up almost closing distance because the guy had a Gallo, but overall, very solid how he's able to use the stim, close the gap, and essentially break the camera. And that goes back to movement, understanding what you can and can't do in the game physics so that you can break the angle and get the advantage in the vast majority of your gunfights. Because if it's even, then you got to kind of flip the coin. When you have the statistical advantage in a gunfight, before the gunfight even starts, you're likely going to win those, because it's kind of not even fair But you really got to understand those movement mechanics. The other part is a fast start. What that means is you got to be able to get in there, maybe land, get a couple kills, and then rotate pretty quickly using a vehicle. And you're going to see that throughout the entire gameplay. You have to take the risk reward of using a vehicle, because traversing Caldera on foot, not necessarily as practical. Same thing with Verdansk, to be honest, though. You could move around on foot, get a decent kill game if you landed hot, all these things lined up. But a vehicle is crucial, and especially in the Battle Royale, you can use the Verdansk vehicles. You're going to be able to move from point A to point B to point C rather quickly. And that's what you're going to see throughout these gunfights, is he makes them super in and out, efficient. Had the one loss where he got shot in the back, instantly deleted by some guy mounted with the 1 KD. Came back, picked up the loot from the guy he killed earlier with the plane he landed on, came back and finished that guy up where that guy was still looting. And that goes back to why that player will remain a 1 KD player. They ended up staying in the same spot for approximately 3 to 4 minutes. Way too long, way too slow. If you're looking to actually improve. I know that's not everything's the case. You're not always everyone want to be a try-hard, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, and you got to kind of work with that, and you know, that's just how it goes. The other part is you got to minimize your deaths. I know that sounds like obvious, but if you're really trying to go for a higher kill game, you got to play smart. You got to win your Gulags. That's really what it comes down to. And someone like him is super efficient at this. And we'll see later on, the big difference here is Spiros ends up playing his life. So someone like Breadman could have good confidence pushing these gunfights and knowing that if he dies, he can be bought back. There's a little bit of a trust there too. And that leads us into having a sport player. At a certain point in the match, they kind of, it's kind of an unwritten rule with whoever you're playing with. If you are having a great game, they go from trying to get as many kills as they want or whatever to essentially becoming a support player so you can get as many kills as you need to. And that's what happens right around 30-ish kills, 35-ish kills. Spiro says, oh man, let's get you the 40 bomb. And they go way beyond that. And he shifts 100% to support player. And that is sometimes hard for people to do. If you play with people with egos, they don't do that for you. They sell, they die, they leave you you know, without any money. You get shot in the back, you get in bad situations. On top of that, even if you have all this lined up, you're an amazing player, you get the God lobby, you get all these, you get a hot drop, you land on the right loot, you still need luck for the lobby to stay alive and to not get randomly killed in the back like he did when he went to the buy station. So there's all those different fundamentals. And I think if you're actually looking to improve, there's tons of tip videos out there that I've made, other content creators. I would definitely honestly check them out for the tips that you're weak in, or watch people like Breadman or Spiros or whoever, and you could pick their brain on why they do certain decisions the way they do. A lot of times resetting the gunfight is a huge thing here, where he's able to back off, change the angle completely. He's trying to get the thirst, and then he pushes without full plate. So this is more of an aggressive play, uses a stim to kind of move on the guy, and he gets a little bit lucky here that that guy doesn't shoot him in the back. While he was down, he kind of shot him there. But you'll see how some of these top players can compartmentalize certain gunfights to actually make the gunfight significantly easier. So right over here, we know that there's one guy based off the minimap. He's going to rotate over there, and then he ends up seeing the guy moving this way. So he positions himself to shoot this guy in the back. He gets a clean kill, and he's like, where the heck's his unghosted teammate? The guy would have been either way in front of him or back over here. So he's like, he probably heard some footsteps, comes through, absolutely demolishes him with the movement, and he only lost like a plate and a half. And that comes from experience and being able to do the good things over and over. Here's where that transition happens that I was talking about, where Spiros essentially becomes a support player. But I really like this particular thing that happens right here with Breadman, and you'll see how it works. So he says, I want to be able to go and get the 40. He gets a contract, which are essential now. You get the big game bounties. You're going to get an advanced UAV. He's about to get sniped in the back, and we're going to look at how he plays this position. He gets sniped. I don't think he sees it, but watching it back over and over, there is a glint in one of the windows here on this little villa or whatever. These players have ghosted. He acknowledges it. There's kind of like a weird glint, I think, on, like in the tree in the window. And then now what he does is these players have to rotate. Let me get into position where I can hold them a little bit, and then I'll be able to get the advantage. They're going to lose sight of me, broke the line of sight. And now he's positioned behind a tree. The guy's peeking like, where the heck did he go? He gets a clean kill. He noticed this one. He pushes up to take an odd angle. And then the guy's expecting him to peek on the right or hard left. He mantles up on the rock and plays it perfectly. Both of those players above a 1.5 KD. I think one's a 1.6 and the other one's like a 1.8 or something like that. So those aren't like some scrubs. They just got outplayed. And flip the roles. He could happen to have the exact same situation the other way around. And it's really about min-maxing those positions so that you can win gunfights against good players, better players, worse players. It doesn't matter. That essentially becomes irrelevant when you already have the statistical advantage in a gunfight. You're going to win. Regardless of how good somebody is, as long as you can be consistent with your movement, your aim, you're going to win that gunfight. Right? If you get all sloppy, you're probably going to lose. This ghosted player, he comes out, takes him out. And now we're looking at 34 or 35 kills here. There's 2 people in front of him. These players are ghosted players, so you want to get these guys out of the lobby because you can see all the little triangles on the UAV or the mini-map. And these guys do not have triangles, so they're going to be ghosted. And you get these from the multiple UAVs. 3 UAVs will now do this, which is huge. So ghost players cannot hide. You have to be aware of this when you're hearing UAVs. He gets one. Now that advanced or super UAV's gone. He comes up, uses the stim, the mobility, and it's essentially broken. He gets this guy rezzing, he redowned, and there you go. Super easy finesse. He made it look way easier. I'm telling you, you could try that yourself, and you would probably get joked on a couple times there just because it takes those reps. Somebody like Breadman already has like 5 or 6 days played on the new map, which is insane. Like, that's a lot of playtime. Experience comes into play when you're playing like this, and there's certain things that you would just not learn unless you get those reps and put yourself through those experiences and fail. He's probably done those same things over and over, and then he's failed. He got killed. Maybe he took a bad angle, whatever. But he's kind of min-maxed it to the point where he's able to execute those on a consistent basis. Gets the big game bounty. And one thing that I actually learned from Breadman is that these do not pull to people with the highest kills. They're essentially like a normal bounty, which is kind of weird because that does not match or work the way it's intended. But it is Warzone, so why would we expect anything to work? At least in their current state, and at least until they get stuff fixed. So he has a guy over here. You can see him on the mini-map. He's rotating towards the buy station. Likely he's going to buy back his teammate, which will be cool. And I think the guy is using the glitch because if you use the specific throwing knives, you come back with your loot and perks. And that's what ends up happening. So he's waiting for this guy. He could have shot earlier. Waited a quick second until the guy's in the open and can't just get back to cover and can get a clean kill. And that's where patience comes in. That's experience, knowing exactly when you need to hit the target. They got the advanced UAV. You can see the guy spawning in with Ghost. So obviously that bug has already been patched out. But it was a bug that was in the game during the time of this specific playthrough where he was able to rack up over 40 kills. So now you get another big game bounty. And if you're actually looking to be as aggressive possible, big game bounties are broken at the moment because they will pull. You're going to go ahead and know where somebody is. That'll give you a 45-second advance, 55-second, or whatever it is, advanced UAV, so you know where everyone is. So you should be grabbing those 100% late game, trying to get the kill, and then you'll know where everyone is, position for the win. Recons are definitely still a great way to win, but this just takes it to another level. So he gets it down, gets a little bit greedy for the kill, decides to use a precision, which is cool. Better than pushing late. At least this will give him an advanced UAV when he gets the thirst. Boom, automatically got the advance. You can see a ghost player just got killed over there by the buy station. You can see the other guys rotating up around, and you can see the path that the guy is taking because the path is on the map. And this is where you want to focus on. All right, let me make sure I get kills if teams are touching. So you got one guy over here solo. Then you got a duo. You got a duo on the other side, and you're able to push this accordingly. So he sees this guy, kind of a little bit of a aggro fire there. That was a little bit too early. Comes through, takes this guy out. The guy ended up getting ended up getting the buy off, so he gets another teammate. The advance is wearing off, but you can see that Spiros has 40k. So now again, he's still going to be running support, calling in those UAVs. And you can see this is probably one of the more dangerous spots he took. He didn't know exactly where they were. He took it aggressively. Could have been thirsted, but that goes back to the confidence of having Spiros pop these UAVs. He did the drop shot. Almost got gunned there. because that guy was basically pre-aimed. He moved into it. Could have gone either way, but Spiros is running the support here. And you can see these guys are playing a little bit weird. One guy's running into the gas. Both of them have Ghost. So you're going to play this where you catch this guy off angle, and so that your left is covered. Then he goes a little bit for the thirst. This is where it could be a little bit risky, but mouse and keyboard, whoop, with the mouse, and then ends up taking that dude out. He's got to be able to get the thirst here, because if the guy gets up, you might not get that kill. Good to go. So now you're talking about solo, and duo. And that's kind of how it works. And Spiros knows that they're ghosted, but he was within range here, so it looks like they're not ghosted. And we'll see what that guy makes a mistake later on, because when you're ghosted, if you call in a precision, you will pop up on the mini-map. And I don't think people realize this. I'm pretty sure they made the change where it works the same for clusters. If you call in a cluster, you're going to get it slide canceled into the room, broke the dude's camera. He could have probably let that guy hit the buy station, but either way, he's good to go. This is a 2v2 situation. It's 46 kills. Spiros is calling in the UAVs. He's going to go ahead and work up over here. He sees the one on the left. He's going to go ahead and come up over here. Position himself, ready to take the guy out. Takes him out. He's like, where the heck is this other one? And then as soon as the guy called the precision, he gave away his location. And that's where that guy messed up. Breadman didn't know where that guy was, and that guy gave away his position. So I highly recommend checking him out, as well as Spiros, YouTube and Twitch. Let them know I sent you. They are amazing players. Obviously, Spiros went into support mode, but that's how it goes. Appreciate support on the content. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.